Welcome back to the Immeasurable podcast. I'm Leah Luong, and I'm here with Jackie McInley. We're in Pine Cottage in Ojai, California. Jackie, do you want to say a little bit about Pine Cottage?
Yes. We're here in the sitting room of Pine Cottage, where Krishnamurti lived, actually, and where a lot of the dialogues organized by the Krishnamurti Foundation America take place.
Great. So we're going to attempt to inquire about a topic, violence, which I think is top of mind for a lot of people, especially right now. There's a Krishnamurti book called Beyond Violence. And I thought that this book would be a nice jumping off point for some of what we may talk about during this podcast episode. You can find this book at the Krishnamurti Foundation bookstore. It's store.kfa.org. Yeah, so before we sat down to record this podcast, I just thought, okay, what are we doing here? And I found this quote, which I thought was really nice, and it says, "We have built a society which is violent," says Krishnamurti, "and we as human beings are violent. The environment, the culture we live in, is the product of our endeavor, of our struggle, of our pain, of our appalling brutalities. So the most important question is it possible to end this tremendous violence within oneself?"
Yeah, that's it. So here we have such a grave question that obviously with the war that is happening at the moment, and which is always happening somewhere in the world. So we have, don't we, Leah? So we have a clear view of what violence is, but out there, happening between people, in violent acts, happening where people identify very, very strongly with a particular party or a particular way of thinking, a particular religious group. There we can see violence, can't we? But what are we actually doing here? What are we attempting to do? Is it that we're trying to talk about what is violence? Krishnamurti seems to say in this book, let's go beyond violence. So how are we going to go about this?
Yeah, I'm wondering what is violence anyway?
Yes.
You talked about earlier some gross examples like war. When I think about, I don't know, punching someone, that seems obviously violent to me.
Right.
But there's some other more subtle forms of violence that I'm not really sure. Something may not feel right, but I don't know if that's violent. What is violence anyway?
This is it. It's like when we have a word like violence, it's like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Oh, yes, that's what goes on. And then our minds come up with where it's happening. And as you say, gross examples of it. We may even be involved in violence ourselves. Somebody steals our handbag, it's an obvious feeling, and we are victims of it. But Krishnamurti seems to be pointing us towards the fact that what we think we know about violence, we actually don't know. And the proof of the fact that we don't know is the fact that it carries on and on and on in human beings. And it doesn't ever seem to stop. There have been attempts at stopping it. Religions, organized religions, taming us in some way. But he seems to be implying that it's because we don't really see what it is. Is that it?
Well, how can I stop or end something if I don't know that I'm doing it?
Yes. Or that I don't see that what I am doing is violent, and that the kind of things that Krishnamurti points out as being violent, like conforming, accepting what you say to me because you're an expert, he says is violent. That seems very strange.
Yeah.
I might be able to penetrate that intellectually, but it's far harder to get a real sense of what he's talking about. And I think this may be the moment where we can talk about how we're going to go into this together.
Right, yeah. Well, we're going to try.
We're going to try, yes. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel? Do you feel it's something to do with communication also?
There's something in me that has an inkling that it might, but I don't really see it.
No.
I have a sense that the way that I'm communicating with other people, or the way that I'm, I guess, that I have relationships in, I have a sense that something's not quite right there.
Yes.
But it doesn't immediately seem violent. I can't connect the two. To me, so when Kay talks about conforming, I mean, that too, like, what's so bad about that? That doesn't seem all that harmful or violent.
Exactly.
I'm not hurting anybody, am I?
Yes. Okay, that's interesting that you're talking like that. Because yes, when I'm in conversation and in relationship, I seem to not notice that there isn't a natural sense of affection with the person I'm with. I may like them, but often I like them for what they can give me, what I can get from them. And I don't see that as violent. I see that as perfectly normal.
Yeah, it's just how things are, right?
It's just how things are. And we've been brought up like that. We've watched other people be like that, have relationships like that. So what could Krishnamurti be trying to bring out in how is that violent? That something about our communication normally has the seeds of violence in it.
Well, so if I'm speaking with you and I'm not listening, that to me doesn't seem all that bad. I mean, what are the stakes there? Oh, okay, I'm just really not listening to you. It doesn't seem like that's all that bad of a thing. But when I zoom out and look at, like, for example, the war that's going on, I can clearly see that that's violence. I see a link between, people not listening to each other, or, I just want to get what I want from these people. So that to me, I can see. But in my relationship, like with you, for example, if I'm not listening to you, how is that violent? It's not causing this big war, or is it?
Yes, and as you were speaking, I was thinking of the UN, and the international relations, and how everybody tries to talk together there, and what kind of quality of listening is going on there. And maybe I can understand, I can see that. I can see there are countries that have they have their own particular interest to defend. And so the conversation is often a form of negotiation. That I can see. And I can see also how it may lead to violence, because there's one group, one country trying to dominate another. Or maybe people get, there's a certain amount of tolerance, I suppose, that can come into the relationships there, because so much is at stake, say, if there was the threat of real violence to us all. So that we can see, but as you say, it becomes far more tricky, or it demands far more of myself to see that what is going on inwardly when the communication between you and I, and as you say, the listening, is being, what's the way to put it? It's being walled up. There's some protection going on. There's some motivations going on that seem to actively prevent a very real sense of giving you attention, hearing deeply what you're saying, so that then it can be responded to adequately. That kind of care doesn't often go into our conversations.
I don't mean to be rude, but why would I do that? That seems really hard, and like it would take up a lot of energy when the way I'm communicating is it's just what I know. It's easy. And more or less it kind of gets me what I want.
Yes. So we're now looking at this sense we all have sometimes of, well, I just don't quite care enough. And what's wrong with that? Seems extremely natural. So I wonder if we could look at that a little closer. If we're going into a question, this relates also to dialogue, doesn't it? Dialogue groups that we do here, where we're looking together at a question. And we often bring up how important it is to have this quality of affection together, and also, is it possible to see things together? And if we don't, we won't be able to really go into questions. But I think more than that, there's something else. It's like there is a quality between us that doesn't come out. And this quality may have something to do with going beyond the casual violence of ourselves. Maybe we can put it like that. You know, the casualness in ourselves, which is actually maybe creating far more barriers between us, which have far more serious consequences. Carelessness, not hating, jealousy, envy, all these things that we consider to be very everyday. We accept that that's the way human beings are, but maybe now we can actually look at this. Does it really have to be like this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And how is it actually practically affecting conversations and dialogue groups? There's a certain kind of self-centeredness that comes in. Is that what we were hinting at?
Yeah, it seems like it.
And what's the trigger for that? Can we trace that in a little? And
For the self-centeredness, you mean?
yeah, what's going on when we're in dialogue or when we're in conversation like we are now? What's going on? Am I concerned with myself here? Am I concerned with what I'm saying? Or am I concerned with what we're talking about?
Well, it seems like I'm more self-centered than I actually admit.
Yes, I think we all are. Sort of hidden in the recesses.
Yeah. It almost seems like I don't know if it has anything to do with like tradition, or that's just what you you were saying, like that's just how things are. So maybe that there's a desensitization there or something.
That's interesting.
Like it's always been done this way, so why do things differently? Even if I know, somewhere something in me is saying, no, this isn't right. We don't have to hurt each other like this. I can look at the world and see all of this unnecessary suffering. But like, what do I do about it? Like, what am I supposed to do about that? What does that have to do with me? Everything out there. It still seems like that it's all these things happening out there. I'm not the one that's hurting people on a large scale like that.
Yes.
In an obvious way. Or it doesn't seem like it.
Yes. Yeah, this is very interesting. This the way things are. As though, which points very much to if it's the way things are and there's nothing I can do about that, and if I do something about it, it often leads to even more confusion, and people then are against me and I'm a rebel, and all kinds of difficulties happen there. So there's something in this. We're beginning to get at something. The way things are, the way things are in place, and it's as though, is it that the way things are, I am not responsible? Yes, I think we're getting somewhere. It's like I'm not responsible for what's out there traditionally. I'm not responsible for the violence. Somehow, maybe it's just in human nature, and that's that. And I'm not responsible even here now in this conversation or in a dialogue group. Somehow I've been traditionally brought up to believe that I'm not responsible. It's the other person has to be interesting. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Or I've been brought up to feel I've got to be interesting.
So are you saying that, like when we're sitting here or in dialogue, for example, that we're bringing with us this how things are?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
And we don't see that we're responsible for that?
Yes, that's it.
But why am I responsible for that?
Yes, and I just wanted to say before going there, we're bringing it with us, but perhaps we actually are that. We can't. We've been conditioned to be like that, programmed to be like that. So we just are that. In other words, I think like that. I feel like that. I see like that. I perceive others in conversation like that. Just drawing it closer and closer to home in a way, what we're talking about. But again, what was your question? So that we can...
I think I asked why I'm responsible for it.
Yes, because it's not. It really isn't obvious, the kind of responsibility we're talking about, because responsibility is normally something, again, that's part of tradition, isn't it? It's like a part of the behaving properly. Oh, I'm a responsible person. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. But here seems like we're trying to see into the way we think and the way we are. And the way that, part of the way I am is that I don't naturally listen to you. I seem to be, what am I doing if I'm not listening to you?
It seems like the program is just running on autopilot or something.
And what is that program that's running?
What I want to happen, what I'm interested in, what I'm going to eat for lunch later.
And it's an autopilot that is listening to its own thoughts. And the thoughts seem to be projecting the picture of the way things are. Like I ask you that question and we answer it with what I think about it.
Yeah.
So I think we're really starting to get to the heart of something here, because we're trying to look into the heart of what we are. So which doesn't mean you and me. It might mean the heart of what we all are. And I think this starts to get rather interesting. So how are we going to look at this? Because often, don't we, when we're asked questions like this, again, coming back to our major question today, which is violence, and is it possible to go beyond violence? Or here, where we're saying, how can we look into the nature of ourselves? We think about it. We go into some kind of analysis about it, don't we?
Yeah, what I already know.
Is it what I already know? Yes. And is it clear to me it's what I already know? Or am I just, again, is that the program that already knows? Because I find sometimes in conversation, I think I'm saying something now. But you seem to be implying, well, no, Jackie, maybe you're not saying it now. Maybe it's coming from what you already know about this. Now, does this, the fact that we already know about things, does that interrupt listening and communication?
It doesn't seem like it at first.
Why doesn't it seem like it?
Well, it seems like that's just how we communicate, right? I mean, you say something, I either like it or I don't like it, I agree or disagree, and that's what I think communication and listening are.
So it seems like we're saying the programs are communicating.
It's not obvious to me.
No.
Because I think if it was, then seems like I'd be able to go beyond it, but I don't know.
Right. So I can't be responsible for something that's not clear to me. Because again, we're leading this, we began this by saying that it's somehow our sense of not feeling real responsibility that perpetuates carelessness, lack of affection, real affection, love, and it's possibly violent. So that's there too.
Yeah.
So something that we seem to be beginning to see that there's a connection between not seeing things and lack of affection. Lack of, okay, let's go not that far too soon. Lack of listening.
See, I still don't see how that's all that bad. Intellectually, I understand.
Yes.
That not listening seems to produce these, destruction, actually.
Mm.
But I don't actually understand it. I don't really feel that I understand it.
And yet we feel when there's a breakdown in communication. But possibly we see it only right down the road, like in my relationships when things start breaking down. Mm-hmm. You know, when it's very obvious that it's breaking down, I start arguing with you or with my friend. But possibly I haven't seen what's going on in the background, or I haven't seen where it all began. Or
so are you saying that it was actually violent before that?
Yes.
Before the arguing even started, or the destruction, or the obvious conflict began?
Yes. Yes. Something to do with the lack of care, the lack of listening, and the lack of real communication. But we have to, what's interesting here is that we're looking into this is inquiry, and how difficult it is for the human mind to actually inquire, because as you so clearly brought up, we don't naturally do that. We just think, and that thinking is programmed, and we just act it out.
Yeah.
So what we're up against now at this very moment is a challenge. It's almost like it's a challenge to our being.
Well, it seems kind of scary.
Interesting.
If I'm not speaking to you from what I know, I mean, that to me feels very safe. Maybe all of this has something to do with safety, or a
so
feeling
what
of
I
safety.
know feels safe, you're saying?
Yeah, it feels secure. But really listening and communicating, it might not have to do with what I already know, with what feels safe. It might require some risk taking, or I guess a willingness to feel uncomfortable. I don't know, but
to kind of jump in to something I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, who wants to feel unsafe or uncomfortable?
It's a very good question. Who wants to do that? And yet, human beings throughout history have done incredible things, putting themselves at risk, if they see the sense of it.
Mm.
And again, possibly is it that we don't see the sense of things, or we don't see them? We were saying this earlier, we're kind of trying to build this. Because we don't see something else perpetuates.
Yeah, I think it's that program we were talking about. Oh, I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Like the program it seems like it's here to keep me safe. It's here to make sure I'm alive.
Right, that's a good point. It keeps me alive.
It keeps me alive.
And it's tradition. It keeps all of us alive because we all feel this is making sense of everything.
Yeah. And I don't like when that's threatened.
Yeah, this knows what to do, knows what not to do, what is wrong, what is right. Mm-hmm. And I don't like this to be threatened, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, the program decides in advance what is secure. Just like the program has decided what is violent and what is not violent.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sense of what those things are.
Mm. And we mentioned this earlier. Do we, though? Do we really see what it is? And do I really, again, it's tied in, do I care that I'm not listening? Do I see, first of all, do I see I'm not listening to you?
I feel like that doesn't happen until there's the arguing or the obvious conflict in our relationship. It isn't immediately obvious to me that I'm not listening, until it seems destructive somehow, obviously destructive.
Yeah, that's it. Mm. So it's like I'm not seeing the actual destructive nature that I'm actually fully responsible for taking place, acting itself out now if I'm not listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
That seems... It happens in dialogue groups all the time.
Not listening?
Not listening. And, I can even accuse my friend of not listening, and I'm not listening at the very moment I'm accusing.
Mm.
And the result of that of not listening, may prevent us being able to go into questions that are of tremendous importance for us all to understand. So it's almost like none of us, the human being, the way we are, the way all of us are, just isn't serious enough. Doesn't care enough, isn't serious enough, doesn't listen. So what's going on there? What maybe now we can, because of course we're not saying this that we're bad people. What's that what we're gonna do there? We'll try and be good, try and listen. Somehow there seems something wrong there also.
Well, when I hear that I'm not listening or that I'm self-centered, I immediately think, all right, how do I listen? How do I not be so self-centered?
Yes. Yes. So what would that involve? Me working out how, you mean? Yes. I notice very often in dialogue, I'm a participant in dialogue. I hear things that are going on and I want to know how to do it right, how to listen properly. So it's almost like I want you to tell me the steps.
Yeah.
And then I'll learn the steps, and then I'll
I'll master them and then become the best listener ever, or a great listener, or there's some
Exactly.
sort of arrival.
There's some kind of arrival, but then I sit in a group and I feel that then I'm a good listener because I know how to do this. I've read Krishnamurti a lot. I've read all about what he says about listening. I've listened to you who are an expert in listening, and now I've got my steps. And then I seem to communicate with all of that in mind. It's guiding me. It's making, and again, I'm safe.
Yeah. I feel like there's something about the safety, though, that's directly tied to violence.
Mm. Yes, I'm not quite seeing it. It's like we're getting different parts, and the bridge between them I can't quite see. So let's see if we can slowly look at this like this. So we're saying there's something about this. I'm in a dialogue group. I'm here with you now. I think I know things. It's stopping me from listening, but it's almost like it's concealed from me that I'm not listening because my thoughts are guiding the way, and now you're bringing this sense of security there. So it's really not security at all. It's like padding.
You mean like protection?
Yes. It's just protecting me.
The thoughts are?
Yeah, because I know what to do. I know what to think. I know more than you.
Hmm.
And what I'm not seeing, what it seems to be concealing, is the fact that I'm not with you. All of that thinking is stopping me from being in connection with you somehow. So the safety, I feel safe because I'm protected from you, when in fact maybe true safety, human safety, is being connected.
Can we be connected and I protect myself or pad myself from you at the same time?
Leah wants her cake and eat it. But that's what we're like. Yes, that's exactly what we then think is, I want to be with you and protected. But what I think I'm trying to say is that very protection is preventing me being truly connected to you because I think I know something. I don't want to listen totally to you in very practical terms. And when I do start listening very carefully to you, I feel connected to you in some way. And I don't worry so much about my protection. So that's going on between us. But I'm wondering, is there something actually going on inside every one of us? So that's the relationship here. But are we talking about something that also has an inward Am I connected inwardly with what we're talking about? Or is the program connected?
Can you say that in a different way?
Yes, it sounds a little bit abstract. I'm trying to get to the fact that we seem to be displaced in some way as people, irresponsible, not connected, not truly caring. These are the themes we've been bringing up. The violence going on out there. There's no sense of connectivity. And we're saying there's no sense of connection between us. And now I'm saying, but is there even a lack of connection inwardly? In other words, am I aware of what's going on? Am I aware of my thinking? Am I aware of my feelings of irritation or feelings of nervousness, feelings of agitation?
Well, what would it mean to be aware of those things?
Kind of conscious. I notice it, I see it, I feel it.
I think I am.
Yeah. But now I'm beginning to care about this. Now I'm beginning to wonder more about it. So yes, we're saying, I think I am. But we're questioning that thinking. We're saying, well, maybe that thinking has come to a conclusion, has come to conclusions about things.
Yeah, I mean, one that just came to mind for me is I think that connection may involve violence sometimes, because that's just how things are. Like, oh, this is just how you communicate with people, and that's what relating or connecting is.
And I'm not aware of that violence.
I'm not aware of it. Like I'm kind of coming back to this like concealed programming, or the thoughts that go along with knowing what connection is.
Yeah, feeling I know or thinking I know. So now we're saying, what will make me want to look at this?
Well, it seems like it's not working.
Right.
Like if I really am connected, or if I really do love people, then why is all this stuff still happening? All of this conflict.
Yes, and something's coming to me here is that usually I blame you, or I excessively blame myself. And that too seems to stop actually seeing what's going on, you know?
You mean like you've, your mind reaches for like some sort of reason as to why this is happening. Like, oh, we have conflict. Oh, it's because you're not listening to me.
Yeah, that's a
or
good way of
I
putting
wasn't
it.
listening enough and I need to do this.
Yeah.
Well, that seems pretty natural, right? I mean, that's how we solve problems.
Exactly. So we're bringing out some of the things that seemingly appear natural, but again, they may not be natural. They may be traditional, like you were saying. And so we're noticing that if it's traditional, then it may be something that's been learnt over time, that's been stored as information, and this information seems to be correct. But now it's as though we're challenging that very information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's very practical. It's because that information is it may be erroneous. It may be just wrong. And the fact that I was thinking of collusion as we were speaking, like it's because you say, well, what's wrong with any of that? Well, it's very hard. It appears that nothing's wrong with it because we all collude there. We're all doing that. So it's hiding also there in that way. And again, why would we look at it if everybody is behaving in a particular way? So what we're pointing at here is it takes a lot to go against the grain or go against the herd in a way.
It feels really threatening.
It feels threatening. So it feels threatening when I'm in communication because I want to just do what everybody does and keep the whole program going.
I mean, so is it possible to connect or relate in a different way? I mean, it seems like this is all I know. The self-centeredness, getting what I want, liking or not liking, agreeing or not disagreeing, listening, not listening. It just seems like what I know.
That's what I know.
Is it even possible to go beyond that?
That's it. That's why this question beyond violence is so poignant, because most of the time I don't know how to go beyond it. I've got no idea. And sometimes I read Krishnamurti and, I really like what he says, that really makes sense. And I absorb his thoughts about it, which again becomes another program. And then I come along and I tell you what you should be doing. All the time feeling that, I'm a good person because I've read a wise person, a wise man about this, but still there's no penetration into this. So it seems to come back time and time again, our conversation, with a lack of awareness. Lack of interest in what I actually am.
Yeah, I don't want to be what I am, which is violent and jealous and all these things that I think are terrible. And sometimes I don't even think that I am those things.
Right. So I'm not aware that I'm those things. It's only other people are those things.
Yeah. Well,
I'm perfectly justified to be those things.
There's that. And it also just, it feels maybe safe to not face what I am. It feels safer to, it just feels safer to know things.
Feels safer to know things. So I'm just going to go in a bit deeper here. I'm getting a sense of, there's like a tension within us sometimes. Sometimes we're relaxed and we just play out our pleasures, what we want, who we want to be with, and all of that, what makes us feel relaxed. But then there are other times when we're beginning to go towards more serious issues, and there's like a tension, almost one could say. And And whenever there's this sense of that tension, something comes along, like you're saying, to try and regain control, feel safe again. And all the while, the tension is never seen, is never being attended to. I'm never aware of what's actually taking place in me. So now there may be a tension, but because I'm not aware of it, I'm trying to talk my way beyond it.
Well, what else are you supposed to do?
Yes, I'm trying to connect my way beyond. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel tension, but I'm trying to connect myself in my relationships and in communication, trying to connect myself beyond that actual feeling that's taking place.
Yeah, but I'm asking, I mean, isn't that just what you do? Am I just supposed to be tense?
Say a little more.
Well, so there's the tension that you talked about that's occurring. Doesn't it make sense to do something about it?
Well, apparently our traditional programming does do something about it. But what it actually does about it may be leading us into more tension. But the source of that tension has been ignored.
Well, sometimes I don't even know that it's there.
Exactly. I don't know. We're getting here somewhere. Why don't I know it's there?
I think it just goes back to what I said about tradition. It just seems like either that's just how things are, or there's something that I don't want to look at for some reason.
Yes.
It feels too unsettling to actually stay there.
Well, if you're saying it's unsettling, you are looking at it. Or maybe it isn't looking at it. Maybe it's unsettling because we're reacting to it. Or
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
right. So then normally we have reactions that then bring about, that seem to stimulate this programming that comes in and our conditioning and responds to everything in our lives. So that happens, but we're saying, is it possible to see what's actually taking place before the reaction? Is that what it is? Is it before the reaction? Okay, so does this have something to do with being sensitive?
That I was just going to get there. Yeah, it seems like something before the reaction. I mean, that seems like I have to really slow down, like really, really, really slow down, and that's not something that I'm used to. Or
this is very interesting. Yes,
I don't even know if I'm comfortable with that.
Yes, exactly. I have to. No, I think you're getting somewhere. You have to slow down, and there's a sense of sort of relaxation, quietness, not too impetuous. Now that's interesting because earlier we were looking at the word, the etymology, the root meaning of the word violence, and one of the meanings was
it did have something to do with
being impetuous.
Force was also another word that was used.
Force was involved, yes. So I think we're getting somewhere here in terms of the practical, what is actually going on in ourselves, inwardly. Often it's difficult to communicate because this sense of impetuosity comes, this sense of not being calm. And we might need to be very, very calm and quiet to start to listen to our own responses. And why are we doing this? Because we've looked at not doing it. And just playing by the book.
Yeah. It seems like history, what we've been doing.
And what we've been doing. So it might just be opening the book and being a little quieter and sort of allowing, looking in a deeper manner to what we're reading.
Well, my mind goes, and then what? Aren't I supposed to get something out of this? Like, I'm going to open the book and then I'm not going to be violent anymore, right?
Yes, yeah. I think it comes back to this all the time. It's like something's going on here. It's like we're always wanting to get it, we're always wanting to see things out there or get something from out there. It's not responsible. It's not, the root meaning of responsibility is the ability to respond and to feel those responses, to see those responses, to be aware of what's actually taking place inwardly that makes us do things, but I'm not aware inwardly. So much is going on inside, and yet it's being ignored, and I want to get it out there.
Can you say more about that?
I want to read the book, get the information, know how to do it, be the best at it, and interact. And in my relationships, I feel inadequate or adequate. And when I feel inadequate, I can be very violent. I can be jealous. I want you to love me. That's pretty violent, causing a lot of unhappiness to the other person. So all of that is actually acting itself out, it seems to me, because I'm not sensitive enough or interested enough in what I actually am, as I am it.
I don't immediately feel like I am insensitive. Even if I can look back and think, yeah, okay, I definitely was not the most sensitive person in that situation. I mean, I think I'm a sensitive person. I get irritated by really bright lights, and so I can see someone being hurtful to someone else, and I feel that. I feel like I'm sensitive. But I think that goes back to what we were talking about with, that's something that I think I know about myself, which is preventing me from seeing all those times that I am insensitive.
Mm. I think this has been so interesting for me, just in the how challenging it is to really inquire. Because, we could have sat here and just played out everything we know that Krishnamurti has said about going beyond violence, what he said about relationships, communicating. And okay, so that can be received as information, being given as information, received as information. But I think what we've been trying to do here, not always succeeding, of course, because it's an attempt. It's where we're actually looking as we're speaking. We're trying to look at what we're talking about. And it seems to be terribly difficult for the human being to do that.
To find out?
To find out, to inquire, to actually, I think maybe what I'm trying to say is it's difficult for me to see what is going on.
Yeah, even now.
Even now, that's right, even now. And that somehow listening has something to do with helping the curtains to draw a little. If I listen to you, it's like my programming is slightly interrupted if I give my attention to you. And anyway, that's what I think we've been trying to do, is to walk together. Kay used to say this, Krishnamurti used to say, dialogue and inquiry is like walking together like two friends, to talk things over and see what can be done and who we are. And that's what we've tried to do today.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot easier to have all the answers, or at least feel like I have all the answers.
That's right. And also to say something maybe to people who are listening to us, that this is, that when you listen on a podcast or a video, there can be this background programming that is hoping that the people will know something that I don't know. Whereas what this seems to be attempting to do is to partake together, is to join together and see if we can really see something new or find out something, and how tremendously challenging this is. So most people don't do it. They don't bother to do that because it takes energy to do so. But if anyone even starts to begin to be interested by this, I tend to feel we need more and more people that just want to play at this, get involved at this, experiment with this, see how we're not listening, rather than just exchanging ideas with each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's risky, isn't it? It definitely feels risky to me.
Risky, also exciting. And the sense of a discovery, we may discover things together. And for that I may need you. We need each other somehow to discover something together, rather than just sitting back and listening to the person who is going to tell me how to do things.
Yeah, that's going to tell me how to end violence.
Oh, yes. Exactly. Exactly. So you tell me how to end it, and I just act that out. But I don't see what violence is.
Yeah, at that point, all you see is what you know.
All you see is what you know.
Or what we think we know, rather.
Which can't possibly see the real source of violence.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe we can end it there.